Hello, this is Sondra Oster, Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Vayishlach, and it begins with Jacob just as he is about to encounter his brother Esau as he is re-entering the land of Israel. And he hears a messenger, hears rumors that indeed Esau is moving towards him with 400 men. And of course, this is a very threatening situation. Jacob left Israel years earlier, running away from Esau, who had sworn to kill him. And now as he comes back into the land of Israel, he has no idea what Esau's plans are. Has he forgiven him? Has he forgotten about their old struggle now that Esau himself is a man of a huge tribe on his way to being a nation of his own? Many followers, children, princes, etc. Jacob doesn't know what what his plans are. And then he hears he's coming towards him with 400 men. He has to assume the worst. Is he going to come? And here's Jacob. What is he? He's got 4 wives and a bunch of kids, and sheep and goats. And he's not exactly a military man. And he doesn't really have the wherewithal to stand up and defend himself against 400 military men that are coming with Esau. So he does a number of things. And commentaries say that actually, if you look at the way he behaved, he prepared himself for a number of different possibilities. One is that indeed Esau's coming in peace, so he's there, he'll greet him, and they'll say hello to one another, and all will be good. He also prepared gifts to give him, and in fact he sends gifts to Esau as a way of appeasing him. If by some chance, he's not so keen on Jacob, maybe these gifts will appease him and take his mind off of perhaps some more sinister agendas. And thirdly, he does prepare for war. In that sense, he doesn't have military men, but at least he divides the camp into 2. And in such a way is so that if one camp is attacked, the other camp can at least escape. And that is how he prepares himself. Okay, he's prepared, and then he passes. He helps the whole family. They have to cross the Yabok River. And this is a river, by the way, that we can see today. If you're standing in the northern part of the Jordan Valley in Israel and you're looking to the east, that is where the Yabok River is. And it's basically as you're coming down on the eastern side of the Jordan, but at the very top of the Jordan, not much south from the Sea of Galilee, and you cross over there, that's one of the entry points into the land of Israel, and that is where Jacob was. Okay, so he's ferrying his family across this river, and it gets to a point where he ferried everybody over to the western side, and he's on the eastern side, and he's about to come over himself. He's the last one over, and then we have an interesting story. Okay, starting with chapter 32, verse 24. And Jacob is left on his own, and a man came and struggled with him until dawn. And he saw this man, whoever this was, that he could not defeat him, so he struck him in his thigh, and he injured him in some way in his thigh, as in Jacob's thigh, as he was struggling with him. And then he says to Jacob, "Send me, release me, because dawn has come up." And Jacob says, "I will not send you unless you bless me." And then first thing he does before he blesses him is he changes his name. He says, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, it will be Israel." Okay? And why? And he gives a reason for it. Because you have struggled with God and with people, and you have prevailed. Okay? And afterwards, he does bless him, and the sun rises, and it seems clear that this man that's struggling with him is actually an angel, a messenger of God. He disappears at dawn, and Jacob is left limping from this injury. So what can we learn from the story? What is the story trying to tell us? I think, first of all, there's a real struggle here. It's a real physical struggle because, indeed, Jacob is left injured. And in fact, in memory of this injury, the children of Israel are commanded to this very day not to eat a certain sinew in any animal. And in fact, that is our custom today. We make sure there's a particular vein or sinew that is in the rear quarter of a cow or an animal, and when preparing, cutting up an animal, that is removed. That is something that we don't eat. But so it's clearly a significant event if we are going to take a memory of this event and memorialize it in a custom that we take with us thousands of years later, even to today. But if we go back to this original verse where he's changing his name to Israel, Israel, Yisrael, the word struggle is sarita, and that is Yisrael. It's from there, and El, of course, is God. So the word itself easily means you've struggled with God. But here, the angel says, because you've struggled with God and with men, and you have prevailed. And this, of course, happens just before his meeting up with Esau. And we know at the end of that encounter, Jacob will indeed prevail. His worst fears will not materialize, and he will come out unscathed, and he will prevail. What is God here? Okay, God is probably reference to the angel. In other words, there is a physical struggle that is going now between Jacob and this divinely sent creature, this angel. And so basically we're seeing God, that Jacob is in a position where he's struggling against this angel, and at the same time he will be in an encounter with Esau, and he will prevail. And many have seen this struggle with the angel is actually a struggle with Esau himself. That there's a spiritual encounter that is going on between the force that Jacob represents, a force of good, and a force that Esau represents. Esau will later on definitely represent evil. I am not sure that he represents evil at this point, but he clearly represents values that are not ours. He represents the values, if we remember what we talked about in the Toldot Torah portion, when he scorns this birthright. This is a person, this is a nation that scorns their traditions, or scorns our traditions that could have also been his. This is a man and a nation that cuts themselves off from the God of Israel, who have no interest in that eternal connection. Okay? And so this is Jacob on the one hand, who represents the continuity of the blessing of God to Abraham, Isaac, and then to Jacob. And his struggle against Esau, who represents the cutting off of that tradition. And it is here that Jacob will prevail. And in many ways, this is a message to us that we take into our own history. That we as Jewish people should never be afraid to stand up for the traditions that we represent, and to stand before those who want to remove themselves or us from those traditions. And if we struggle with that force that comes against us, even if we may be injured in the process, we will indeed prevail. And this is God's promise to Jacob, but it becomes also a message to us, the children of Israel, a message that we will take with us into and throughout our history. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below, as well as on the notification bell, and that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.